There's a kind of silence at 2:17 a.m. that makes your ears ring, like the world is holding its breath and waiting to see what you do next. That was the hour I accepted a small order to an old building called Linden Court. 1 iced tea. No sugar, leave at door. Special instruction. Please use the north stairwell. The elevator is broken. Night runs can be weird, sure. Drunk people, barking dogs, the occasional fight spilling into the street. But this felt too neat, too polite, too exact. Like a script someone wrote to make the night behave. I told myself to relax, turned down the radio, and drove through empty blocks until I saw a long brick shape rising out of the fog like a barge stranded on land. There was a light on in one window on the 4th floor, a soft square of gold drifting on the mist like it wanted to be a lighthouse, but had forgotten the rules. Linden Court had a courtyard gate that wouldn't close all the way. Someone had wrapped a shoelace around the latch like a desperate bandage, and every few seconds the wind made it tap the post. Tap, tap. Tap-toe. I found the north stairwell next to a letterbox panel stained with rust and old rain, and I started up with the iced tea sweating in my hand and my phone flashlight, low to keep the moths from flying at my face. Something about stairwells after midnight turns the smallest sound into a story you can't ignore. And as I climbed floor by floor, I kept hearing shoes on concrete that weren't mine. A soft scuff, a pause, another scuff, like someone learning to walk again. I stopped on the 2nd floor landing and turned full around. Light up, chest open to the dark, and said, "Hello?" Like maybe hello is a shield and not a word, silence. But not the good kind. There's a silence that means empty, and there's a silence that means listening. And this one made my shoulders crawl like I was standing in a room that didn't want me yet. I kept going and reached the 4th floor. Hallway long and narrow, single bulb dying in the middle. One door near the end with a doormat that said, "So glad you're here," in cracked print. The order note said, "Leave at door." So I set the iced tea down, snapped the photo for proof, and did the usual. 2 knocks, 3 steps back, angle my body. Soft smile in case they opened with a face. The door opened a crack without a sound, not even the click of a latch, and a pale hand reached out. Thin wrist, hospital band still on, and pulled the tea inside. "Thank you," a soft voice said, not a whisper but too light to reach the end of the hall. And the door closed again with the careful care of someone afraid of making noise in the wrong kind of night. I waited a beat like always, in case they forgot a straw or needed help with the app. And then my phone buzzed, a tip, generous, unusually generous for 1 iced tea, and a message. "Please don't take the elevator down." The elevator at my back hummed awake like it had heard its name, and the small cold behind my knees made me decide I could be a stair guy for one more trip. On the 3rd floor landing, I heard the scuff again, closer, slower, and I flashed the light quick and found nothing but dust drifting and a small smear on the rail, like someone had dragged a finger with paint that never dried. When I reached the courtyard, the gate had stopped tapping, the wind had moved on, or the night had chosen me over the gate, and I walked fast to my car, trying not to run like a kid who swears he's not afraid of the basement. The app chimed again with a second message. "If you can, please bring another tea. Same kind, no sugar." I stared at it too long, because there are simple things that hurt. Being needed by a stranger is one of them, and against the part of me that wanted my bed, I accepted. 10 minutes later, I was back at the gate, shoelace sighing against the latch, and the mist had thickened into a soft wetness that made edges round and sounds close. I took the north stairwell again, not even glancing at the elevator, and walked slower now because it felt like the building had woken and didn't want to be surprised. On the 4th floor, the hall bulb was out, dead, not dying, and the darkness had the heavy feel of a coat you put on without meaning to. I used the phone light and saw the doormat again. "So glad you're here." And I thought, if that's true, why does my chest feel like a door someone is knocking on from the inside? 2 knocks, 3 steps back, angle body, soft smile. The dance we all learned to keep the peace between strangers. The door didn't open this time, but I heard the same voice, soft and careful. "Can you slide it through?" There was a mail slot down low, brass, scratched, and I crouched and pushed the cup through slow so I didn't spill it, and as it passed, the cold from the other side breathed against my fingers like an open freezer. "Thank you," the voice said again, a little thinner now, pulling air like a thread through a needle. On instinct, bad instinct. Human instinct, I said, "Are you okay?" Because asking that question is the first way we try to hold up the sky for people we don't know. There was a pause, like a hand hovering over a switch, and then, I didn't want to die alone. Everything in me went very still, like when a glass falls in a quiet room and everyone waits to hear if it breaks. "Do you need me to call someone?" I said, and my voice sounded like it belonged to a kind man I hoped I could be. The door opened a little, more than a crack now, and I saw the pale hand again, and the hospital band, and the edge of a gown under a long sweater, and beyond that, the thin slice of a room with no furniture. Just a mattress on the floor and a folded paper on top like a letter waiting for the right eyes. "I already called," the voice said, and now it had a smile hiding in it, the kind that makes the hair rise at the base of your neck. "Who?" I asked, because questions are bridges and sometimes they lead to fire. "You," the voice said. "Gentle as rain over dust. Fear is a fast animal, but grief is slower and heavier." And it sat down inside me then with both hands on my ribs. "I'm just the delivery guy," I said, and hated how small it sounded, like I was trying to step out of footprints already made. "You came back?" the voice said, and nobody comes back for one iced tea. Behind the door, something like a laugh folded in half and put away. There are times you don't leave, even when every smart thing in your bones tells you to go, because leaving would make you part of the story that breaks the world a little more. "Tell me your name," I said, and the quiet on the other side felt like a hand on a shoulder. "Steadying, Eli," the voice said, and then, softer, "Eliana." And the second name told a longer story than the first. "I'm Marco," I said, and it felt strange to put my name in that hallway as if names could warm air. "My mother used to bring me tea when I couldn't sleep," Eliana said. "No sugar, so the sweetness wouldn't trick me into staying awake." My heart got tired and the hospital got loud, and I kept thinking about the quiet between sips. I came home because I wanted the quiet to be mine again, for one night. Her words fell into my chest like small stones dropped into dark water. "One by one, the rings widening where I couldn't see. I can sit outside your door," I said, "if that helps." And I realized I had already slid down the wall to the floor, my back on cold paint, my legs stretched out, as if my body had made the decision my mind was afraid of. "Would you?" Eliana asked, and now the smile in her voice sounded like a human thing again, and not a trick of a bad night. So I sat there, and the minutes grew leaves, and the building sighed around us like an animal settling in its sleep. I listened to the soft sounds through the door, the stir of cloth, a sip, the small hush someone makes when they are winding string around the last edge of themselves. And then I heard footsteps at the far end of the hall. Slow, sure, not the scuff from the stairwell, but a measured walk, like someone carrying a full bowl across a room. The bulb was still dead, but the dark moved in a way that made the hair on my arms lift, like a shadow had decided to stand up and be counted. "Do you see them?" Eliana asked, and the way she said "them" told me there was only one person there, which is sometimes how fear pluralizes what we can't hold. I stood without meaning to, the floor cold through my shoes, and said in a voice that tried to be official, "Can I help you?" The shape stopped near the dead bulb and didn't answer, just watched. And then the phone in my hand buzzed with a new message on the order. "Please don't be afraid of him." "I thought you said you were alone," I said, and my voice shook like a door in a storm. "I am," Eliana said, and something in the way she spoke told me she wasn't lying. The shape took one step closer, and the light from my phone caught a face. An old face, wet with the shine of eyes that had been watching too long. He lifted a hand slow, palm open, and pointed not at me, not at the door, but at the floor near my feet, as if I was standing on a mark in a play. "Her father," Eliana said through the door, voice trembling now, not with fear but with something wider. "Grief's bigger cousin, the one that brings the family to your house and makes them sit. I didn't want him to find me too late." The old man swallowed like it hurt and said finally, "Ellie?" And the sound was a plea left out in the rain. "Dad?" Eliana said, and the door opened enough for her to put her hand out, that small pale hand with the hospital band, and the old man took it in both of his like heat around snow. He slid down beside me and leaned his forehead to the door and said, "I'm sorry I didn't come sooner." and the door breathed as if it were the chest of some larger thing we had all become. There are moments when you feel the building listening, when the plaster and the wires and the pipes agree to hold still so a small, true thing can happen. This was one of those, and all the fear in my body found a chair and sat down like a good guest. We stayed like that for a while, 3 people arranged by a door, each on our side of a story, until the soft sounds inside became softer, and then the kind of quiet that doesn't mean listening anymore. The old man's shoulders shook and he made a sound no word can carry without breaking, and my hands found the floor and pressed there as if I could keep the world from dropping another inch. Somewhere below, the elevator chimed once, a single bell in an empty church. My phone buzzed one more time with a notification from the order, and the message was simple: "Thank you for staying. The rest is ordinary and unbearable." The old man called a number he already knew how to dial, and people came with quiet shoes and careful hands, and the hall filled with the slow light of morning like it had been waiting on the stairs all night. They asked questions and I answered them, but only in the small circle of what I had done. 2 deliveries, 2 knocks, a door held closed and then opened enough for a hand. When they wheeled the stretcher past, the doormat said, "So glad you're here," and I thought how sometimes the world lies to us kindly, and sometimes it tells the worst truth in a soft voice. Later, after the sun rinsed the buildings and the city remembered its own name, I looked at the order history and saw the address had been used before. Many times, always late, always 1 drink, always the north stairs. Different drivers, different hours. The same pattern written like a prayer in the margins of the night, and many of them had left notes in the private feedback box. Customer kind. Very polite, generous tip. Maybe it was random. A handful of small kindnesses gathered like coins in a pocket. But the thought that wouldn't let me go was this: Eliana had been making sure there was always someone who would come if the door needed hands, and in the end, we were exactly who we were. A stranger who returned, a father who found the right hall at the wrong time, and a woman who refused to let the last hour be empty. If you ever find yourself climbing a stairwell at 2:17 a.m., iced tea in hand, and the building is holding its breath, remember this: fear can keep you alive, but so can showing up. And sometimes the only difference between a horror story and a holy one is a door that opens just enough for a hand to reach out and be held. And if you hear shoes on concrete that aren't yours, listen close. It might be danger, it might be memory, or it might be the sound of someone who didn't want to die alone, making sure there would always be footsteps close by. When the night wants to make you small, be the person who comes back with 1 more drink and a name. And when the elevator hums in a sleeping building, take the stairs, because some grief wants you to arrive the long way, step by step, like you mean it. The message popped up at 1:41 a.m., right when the streets go quiet and small sounds feel bigger than they should. Please bring order to back entrance. Basement apartment. Door is heavy. I'll leave it unlocked. I can't climb stairs. There was a note at the end that stuck in the throat like a fishbone. Come all the way in so I can sign. There's a time of night when common sense sounds like your mom and hunger sounds like your rent, and for the last week, rent had been the louder voice. The building sat behind a grocery store where the lights hummed like tired bees and a dumpster leaned into a fence like an old dog. The back entrance was a rusted door with a busted push bar and a hand-lettered sign, Basement 3B. I knocked the way delivery drivers, learned to knock, firm but friendly, and waited for the fast shuffle of feet or the short pause of someone who doesn't like strangers. Nothing. The handle turned without a fight, and a Merlot dark stairwell exhaled air that smelled like wet cardboard and old onions. The order was simple: soup and bread, extra napkins, but the bag felt wrong in my hand, as if it wanted to be somewhere else. The steps groaned like they were remembering names, and each one echoed up into the empty store, then fell back down on me. At the bottom, a concrete hall stretched left and right, pipes sweating overhead, a single string of bulbs buzzing like nervous insects. Someone had painted numbers on the doors with shaky strokes. 3A, 3B, 3C, like a kindergarten project for ghosts. 3B had a rug in front of it, the cheap kind with fake flowers, edges curled like lips. The door itself was open just a finger's width, enough to show a strip of dark that felt heavier than the hall. "Hello?" I said, because people forget that delivery drivers learn to be voices that don't startle. "Come in," a woman answered, soft and breathy, the shape of the sound like someone talking through a scarf. I left it open. Hands don't work well tonight. I pushed the door with my foot. The air changed immediately, warmer, stiller, carrying a sweet smell under a sour one, like someone had tried candle over mildew and then given up halfway. A lamp in the corner threw a small pool of yellow on a low couch covered in blankets, and someone lay there under the layers like a careful hill. "Just set it on the chair," she said. "I don't want to spill." My hands shake. Her voice wasn't old, not young either. One of those ages where time can swing either way. I put the bag on a chair by the lamp and took out the soup. Peeled lid still tight, steam threatening. From the couch, a pale hand slid free, thin as paper, nails short and clean. "Could you open it?" she asked. "And put the spoon in?" The spoon clicked against the foam lid like a small bell, and when I lifted it, the soup breathed chicken into the room. "Thank you," she said, and the thanks sounded like it had worn a groove in her mouth. "Do you need to sign?" I asked. "Later," she whispered. "Will you stay a minute?" The question pressed on the room like another blanket. And the part of me that measures tips and time and safety tried to stand up and leave. But another part, the stubborn human piece that doesn't, like to walk away from a voice like that, pulled up a chair and sat. "Okay," I said. 1 minute. Silence settled in, broken by the soft clink of spoon against paper and the small, careful sip someone makes when they have learned to take their time. "My name's Anna," she said after a while, with one N. Everyone always adds another. I told her mine, and the sound of it in that room felt strange, like hearing your name from a radio in a different city. "I used to work upstairs," she said. "Deli counter. Cut bread, weighed ham, cracked jokes about olives like they were people." Her breath snagged on a laugh that didn't quite make it. "What happened?" Slipped out before I could be only professional. Anna let the spoon rest, metal tapping the edge, tap, tap, like a moth hitting glass. "My brother," she said. "He liked the basement. Said it was quiet. Said I didn't understand quiet." The lamp clicked once, just the bulb adjusting itself, and a long pipe in the hall gave a tired cough. "Sometimes," she said. "Quiet is a door that doesn't want to open." The basement seemed to remember that it was underground. I noticed details my brain had ignored. A second door behind the couch, painted the same color as the wall with no knob, only 2 round scars where screws used to be. Next to it, a stack of flattened boxes tied with twine, and on top of those, a folded hoodie with a grocery logo too faded to read. "Do you mind?" she asked, handing me the bread. "The crust helps, makes the soup feel less alone." The way she said alone made the skin between my shoulders pinch. I passed the bread, and when her sleeve slid back a little, I saw a long, furry scrape along her forearm, the kind that comes from metal that doesn't like you. "It's ugly," she said, catching me looking. "Door got mad." "Which door?" I asked, even though I already knew which one I wanted her not to mean. She tilted her head toward the wall door, the one with no knob. "Don't," she said softly. "It's heavy when it wants to be." The app buzzed in my pocket. Another order pinged across town. Good pay. A familiar building with a friendly night guard and bright lobby. Time to go. "Do you need anything else?" I asked, standing halfway like a deer that hasn't decided. "Would you take the trash?" she said. "The bag by the sink." I can never reach the chute. It's the one at the end of the hall. The kitchen was a partial nook, mini fridge humming low. 2-burner stove with 1 burner blackened and the other rusting around the edges. A plastic bag sat by the sink. Tied once, then again the knot pulled hard. It felt heavier than trash should feel, and the weight shifted like something soft and wet finding its shape. "Careful," Anna said from the couch, voice thinner now. "It leaks if you hold it low." I lifted it higher, away from my leg, and a drop still fell to the floor, dark and sticky, spreading like an eye that had blinked and stayed open. The hall seemed longer on the way out. The bulbs hummed louder, and water tapped inside the pipes like fingers on a table. At the chute, the metal door stuck before it opened with a throat scrape sound that shivered in my teeth. Heat surged from the shaft, the building's breath rising from somewhere old, and something moved far below. something like rope sliding over wood. I fed the bag into the square and listened to it fall longer than the building should have allowed. When I came back, Anna was sitting up barely, blankets sliding, hair falling forward in a dark rope. "Thank you," she said, and it was the third time, and somehow the saddest. "Do you have someone who can come check on you?" I asked. She looked past me at the knobless door, and for a second the room felt miscounted, like there were more hearts than people. "He checks," she whispered. "Every night. He checks." A cold pin scratched down the spine. "Your brother?" Anna nodded once, very slowly. "He doesn't like open doors," she said. "He says open means leave. And you, want to leave?" I asked, the words careful, like they were made of glass. She sank back into the pillows, tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. "Not yet," she said. "But I want the choice." The air pressed in, as if the basement were listening with both hands. I set the delivery receipt on the chair and tried to hand her the phone for a signature, and her fingers didn't lift. "Can you sign for me?" she asked. "Just write Anna, 1N. It's against the rules. But rules aren't made for basements at 2 a.m., where someone's voice is turning into air." I wrote Anna, small, like a prayer I didn't want to wake. Something squealed in the hall, metal on metal, far away, and the knobless door clicked in the frame like a throat clearing. Anna's eyes jumped there and back. "Fast, I should go," I said. "Wait," she whispered. "If he comes, just don't stand between us." "How will I know it's him?" Slipped out, even though the body already knew. "You'll know," she said. "He walks like water in pipes." And then, in the distance, water started. It wasn't water. Not at first. It was the sound of weight moving through a narrow place, bumping, pausing, sliding, the hall catching it and returning it in pieces. The bulb stuttered, and the shadows on the ceiling pulled longer, like string being stretched. I moved to the door and looked out. 3A's door trembled once, as if something big had just brushed past. The sound grew into steps, and the steps became a shape. He was broad across the shoulders and thin in the face, eyes like wet coins, hair too short like it had been hacked off to stop it from falling in the soup. His hands were wrapped in gray tape, layer over layer, like someone had decided to turn skin into tool. He saw me and stopped, and for a second the hall forgot to breathe. "Delivery?" he asked, voice flat like reading a list. "Basement 3B, I said, as if that answered anything. He looked past me, into the room, and something in him pinned there like a compass finally finding north. "Anna," he said, and the name came out the way a cut makes its way to the surface. Slow. Sure, unavoidable. From the couch, the blankets shifted. "Mateo," she said, and her voice carried 100 dinners and 100 apologies. He stepped forward, and the hall got smaller. I remembered what she had asked, "Don't stand between us," and moved to the side as he reached the doorway. The tape on his hands made a soft crinkle sound, and underneath it I could hear the rasp of skin that had forgotten what air felt like. He stopped just inside the door and stared at the knobless one on the wall, something tight pulling his mouth down. "Still open?" he asked. "Still heavy," she answered. He turned to the couch and knelt, all at once tender and terrifying, knees cracking like ice. "I brought the knife," he said softly, like a person might say, "I brought flowers?" "No," Anna said, and the word snapped so cleanly that the room flinched. "Not tonight. I just wanted soup." He swallowed and his throat clicked. "People don't come down here," he said, eyes moving to me without landing. "They do," Anna said, "if you ask nicely." "People don't stay," he said. "He stayed," she answered, and the word "stayed" felt like a warm hand put over a cold one. He looked at my feet, at the small splash on my shoe from the trash bag leak. "Did she make you take it?" he asked. "Just to the chute," I said. His eyes lifted to mine then, and the coin sheen sharpened. "Don't touch the chute again," he said calmly, as if explaining that the oven is hot. "It goes where it goes," Anna whispered. "It's okay," the way someone says it to a dog that has learned thunder. Mateo stood slowly, the tape hands hanging, and turned back to the wall door. From behind the paint, something thumped once, small and hollow, like a chair gently nudged. Anna closed her eyes. "He checks," she said again, softer, as if each repeat made it truer. The app buzzed a second time. The other order was going to cancel. "I should go," Anna said kindly. saving me from the guilt of choosing. Thank you for the soup. The last word broke like a dry leaf. I stepped into the hall. Matteo followed to the threshold and stopped, as if an invisible line wrapped the doorframe. He leaned in, so close I could see where the tape had gathered lint and cat hair and a red thread. If she calls again, he said, come, but don't bring friends. Doors don't like crowds. He lifted one taped finger and pressed it to the doorframe, leaving a small gray smudge like a thumbprint in fog. Back in the stairwell, the air felt almost clean. At the first step, I realized I was holding my breath and let it out. The exhale loud enough to make dust dance. The upstairs door opened to the empty loading dock, and for a second, the night outside looked like a miracle. A big, messy sky stitched with orange streetlight. As I reached my car, the dumpster lid creaked, and something small skittered underneath. The little civilized monsters that eat what we drop, city still being city. On the drive, I kept turning one sentence over like a coin in my pocket. It goes where it goes. I didn't want to know what that meant, but not wanting isn't the same as not knowing. In my head, the chute fell through floors that weren't on any map, through rooms that never got rented, through dirt that remembered being river. Where it goes is where the building hides its heaviness. At home, shoes by the door, I checked the app without meaning to. The order had a note in private feedback. Polite. Stayed a minute, signed for me neatly. Under it, another line appeared, maybe a glitch, maybe not. If he comes again, tell him the knife is not for doors. I stared until the letters blurred. Then I put the phone face down like it was rude to watch a room I had left. 2 nights later, the same address pinged at 2:03 a.m. Same items, same instructions, same request to come all the way in. I said yes. Some things you say yes to even when your hands don't. The back door sighed open like it had been waiting. On the stairs, the air felt heavier, like the building had remembered my name. B's door was closed this time. I knocked, and instead of Anna, the tape-rough voice said, come. Inside, the lamp burned lower, and the couch was empty. Blankets folded too neatly, like a bed in a room that's been checked by a nurse. The knobless door stood perfectly still. On the chair, a folded note sat under a spoon. I didn't mean to read it. I read it anyway. Matteo, it said. Careful letters like someone teaching themselves to be steady. The knife is for the net, not the door. If you cut the door, it bleeds us. My eyes caught on the word net, and my stomach turned the way an elevator turns when it misses a floor. The chute, I realized. Nets to catch what falls too fast. Behind me, Matteo stepped close enough that the tape smell, old glue, sweat, dust, filled the space where words wanted to be. She goes where she wants, he said. Not angry, not sad, but something that was both. Tonight, she wanted upstairs. My mouth worked and found nothing. Worth saying, he pointed to the bag in my hand. Soup. Gets cold, he said. I set it down on the chair and pulled the lid. Steam rose slow, like a soft surrender. Thank you, he said, and this time, it came out of his throat like a thing learned late. As I turned to leave, he added almost to himself, doors forgive slower than people. Back at the chute, I stood a moment too long, listening for a bag that wasn't there. Far below, something swayed, a soft rope sound, and then the building settled, the way a sleeping animal adjusts its legs and sighs. Outside, a breeze lifted the edge of a grocery ad and pressed it to a puddle where it drowned in colors. I thought of Anna's 1N and the way she sat alone like it had teeth. In the dark reflection on my car window, my face looked like a basement version of itself. If the order pings again, the body will move before the brain can argue. That's the strange math of nights like this. Fear and care both ask you to come back. If it does, the plan is simple. Knock. Don't stand between them. Never touch the chute. And remember that some doors don't open. They choose. And if a voice from a couch asks you to stay 1 minute, count slow, because sometimes a minute is the only thing a person needs to not be alone inside a heavy room. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't what's behind the door with no knob. It's how easily you can become the person who carries soup into the dark and learns the basement is listening. The ticket looked normal until it didn't. Leave at door. Do not knock. Photo required. If porch light is off, wait in car until it turns on. It was 3:12 a.m. The hour when even the roads look tired and street signs start to feel like rumors. The address had 2 numbers listed, like GPS couldn't pick a side, one pinned to the map. The other tucked in the notes with a warning. Only come to the side entrance. Front camera is broken. Side doors at 3 a.m. make the mind chatter. But rent has a louder mouth than fear. So the car rolled on. Out past the last gas station, the town thinned into fields and busted fences. The kind of quiet that makes a person feel like a small mistake on a big page. The house sat at the end of a gravel drive. Dark as a closed eye except for a square of light in the side yard where a porch should be. A dog barked once and quit. Like it remembered a promise, my phone buzzed with a message. Park facing the road. Leave engine on. People say that to be safe. People also say it to make other people unsafe. The porch light was off. The note said wait, so the engine idled, heater humming. Wipers making small squeaks over a dry windshield because the hands needed to be busy. There was a barn shape in the field, slouched under the moon like it was thinking of leaving. Something shifted inside the house. One of those old home groans that sounds like it learned to speak before people did. The porch light flicked on as if it heard my name. Photo, drop. Go, simple. I grabbed the drinks in the bag, light feet on gravel. Every step popping little stones that sounded too loud in the wrong kind of night. At the side, a narrow deck ran along the wall to a door with no window. Paint flaking like sunburn. A doorbell haloed with dead bugs. Leave it door, I reminded the hands, as if they needed words to do what they do. The mat wasn't a mat. It was a cut piece of old carpet, damp with the kind of wet that never dries. Something metallic clinked under it when the heel pushed down. The food went on the step. The drinks lined up like little soldiers, and the phone came up for the proof picture. The flash popped. For a second, the whole world looked painted. In the flash, a detail bloomed and didn't let go. A front door on the other side of the house. Across a bend of the deck, with a doorbell camera, the little round eye of it staring straight into the side yard like it was watching me. Not the front steps. It had a red glow, faint, like a coal under ash. The notes had said the front camera was broken, but broken things don't stare. The flash faded and took the lie with it. The brain filed that away as a later problem. The body already stepping backward. The phone buzzed in my hand. Photo received. Wait 30 seconds. Why? No answer, just the small gray dots of someone typing, then stopping, then typing, then stopping, like a person trying to decide how to use a stranger. I counted in my head because it felt childish to count out loud. At 23, the side door latch clicked. It didn't open. It just clicked, like a habit. Then the dog barked again from somewhere wrong. The kind of bark that comes through wood, not air. A chill traced the ribs. The echo kind that remembers old basements. At 29, the porch light flickered twice, polite as a wink. 30, I turned to go. And the front camera, the one across the deck, the one that wasn't supposed to work, made a small whir like a yawn. It was aimed directly at the side door, at my back. At the food on the step, it felt like standing in a picture that already happened. The night stretched. The phone rang with the order's masked number. Hello? A voice came through, calm, almost bored, like a person who has done this before. Please move the bag 1 foot to the left. The ants get in under the door. It was such a normal sentence that the body obeyed. The foot moved the bag. Thank you, the voice said. Wait 10 more seconds. Why? So I can see it. The words didn't fit. See it from where? Slipped out. A pause, and then, closer than the phone, from behind the side door. Here. The phone went quiet. The porch light hummed like a throat clearing. The 2 numbers on the order felt less like a mistake and more like a mirror held too close to the face, and people make mazes out of houses. Some doors are just dead ends you can open. The hand reached out fast from the gap. Pale and long-fingered, nails chewed flat. Hospital bracelet flashing in the light like a fish turn. It grabbed one of the drinks with a sudden, hungry precision. Sprite, the voice said softly. But the label said lemon tea. Yeah, the mouth said, because sometimes agreeing is safer than correcting. The hand vanished. The latch clicked again. Tip added. The app chimed. The number was too big for a drink thief, too neat for an accident. It felt placed, like a coin on a grave. "Thank you." The text followed. "One more favor. Could you check the front door? Make sure it's locked." Every story with a bad ending starts with a favor that feels like a small thing. The front deck creaked under steps, old nails talking in clicks. The camera tracked me. No pretend now, no broken myth. Its red dot a small, watching heart. The front door had 2 numbers nailed into the frame, one above the other. Like the house couldn't decide who it was when it was born. The knob turned without resistance, unlocked. Behind the door, a black rectangle of foyer and stairs, the smell of cedar and bleach and something older, like a wet coat forgotten for a season. On the hall table, a cheap bouquet in a gas station vase leaned toward the floor. Water gone cloudy, a paper sat beside it, a delivery receipt from a week ago. Same restaurant, same items, same tip, different driver name. The pen trail of the signature trembled like it had been written in a moving car. The phone vibrated in my pocket. "Is it locked?" "No." "Lock it, please." The politeness was a thin blanket over something cold. The latch clicked under my hand like it was glad to have something to do. "Thank you," the text said. Now the back gate. "The dog keeps getting out." There it was again, the dog. But the bark had come from inside earlier, and the skin learned a new way to sweat. "Where's the gate?" "Follow the fence." The fence ran like a line drawn by a tired hand, posts leaning, wire sagging in long smiles. The back field opened into a pale swath of frost-tipped grass and a shape that wasn't a barn up close. A shipping container, new paint trying to look old, ventilation grills punched crooked along one side. It hummed. Not loud, just enough to claim the air around it. A chain hung loose on the gate. "Padlock open, a courtesy or a dare. Just hook it," the text buzzed. "It doesn't have to lock." He forgets and runs. The mind threw up a picture of a dog again. Tail thumping, eyes bright. The ear threw it down. The container door had a window, fist-sized, covered with mesh. Something moved behind it. A slow shift like a person turning over in sleep. Breath fogged the mesh from the inside, then cleared in a patient rhythm. He forgets and runs. I hooked the chain. "Done," I texted. "Good," came back. "You're helpful." The word helpful felt like hands on shoulders. A turning. The porch light on the side went off, then on, then off. The front camera blinked red, red, red. "Watching nothing and everything. That's it. For now," the reply said. "Would you look at the shed?" "Sometimes he gets in there too." "I don't do outbuildings." The fingers typed. A brave lie dressed as policy, 3 dots. I'll add another tip. The shed was just past the container, door half open. A single rope tied from handle to a stake in the ground, as if ideas can stop with string. The smell got stronger. Bleach. Cedar, wet coat, and under that, something sweet that didn't belong outside. Inside, a workbench sat under a small window, tools hung neat. A coil of cable like a sleeping snake. On the bench, a box of doorbell cameras. In the corner, a cardboard sleeve with return labels that matched the address on my app. And 2 drivers' names crossed out with thick black lines. The phone rang. "Please answer," the text said. "Hello?" "Thank you," the voice said again, soft as a blanket pulled up to a chin. "You should go now." Relief came too fast. It tripped and fell. "Use the field," the voice added. "Don't walk past the front again." "Why?" Silence breathed. "He sees the front," the voice said. "He thinks front means welcome," and the word welcome sounded like a cut smiling. The engine was still idling. A faithful animal, nose to the road. The field path ran crooked. Frost crunching like sugar under shoes, halfway to the car. The front camera clicked, a sound that felt like a finger finding a trigger. The porch light died. The side light died. In the mirror, something stepped into the frame of the front door. Not a dog. A man with an animal's patience, broad-shouldered. Head tilted the way a predator keeps its throat safe. Hands hanging. Empty or not, it didn't matter. He looked at the driveway and waited. The way a door waits for someone who doesn't know it is already open. The house with 2 numbers had 2 ways to be seen, and I had been seen the wrong way. The phone buzzed with one last message. "I'm sorry." He gets confused. It's safer when he thinks you work for us. What was us? Husband and wife, or something worse made of those same letters. The car slipped into gear. gravel snapping under tires like teeth at the road. The signpost had no sign, just plywood with the ghost of old letters. A second, smaller sign lay in the ditch with the real number like a shed skin. 2 numbers to keep 2 stories alive. Left for helpers, right for food. The stray thought that wouldn't leave. Food is also a word for people, depending on who is telling the story. Back home, the app showed the tips. Too neat, too big. Stacking like alibis. The private feedback read, excellent. Followed directions. Stayed safe. Under it, another line appeared and then disappeared fast as a blink, like a draft caught on the page. Next time, park by the barn. The barn that wasn't a barn, the container that hummed. If that address hits again, the body will remember the hum before the brain remembers the map. If it does, the plan is different. Decline, breathe. Let someone else play the part in the maze. But the worst part of the night wasn't the hand, or the camera, or the man in the door. It was how easy it was to be helpful for long enough to become a piece of a house with 2 numbers. People always want to know the scariest thing seen on delivery. It's not ghosts. It's instructions that know exactly who you are and make you prove it. And if a note ever says front camera broken, believe the opposite and leave. Some cameras don't record for safety. They record to keep count. Some porches don't want food. They want footsteps. And some houses learn your face. They'll wait. They have all night. If this story pulled you into the dark and made you glance at your door, hit like to keep the lights on, drop a comment with your own delivery chills, and subscribe for more true night terrors. Turn on the bell so the next knock finds you first.